After a while, my fiancée Serena started sleeping with her phone in her pocket, an odd habit, but I never said anything. At first, I thought it was just a quirk, but then I noticed she wouldn't even pick up her phone in front of me. That's when I knew something was wrong. One night, the phone slipped out of Serena's sports leggings pocket, and I woke up to the sound of it hitting the floor near my feet. Initially, I was going to plug it in for her, as I often did, but then, what appeared on the screen froze me in my tracks. A string of notifications and messages from dating apps. Oh, I wanted to shake her awake, confront her with the truth, but I didn't. Serena and I met when I was the student council president, always serious and responsible. Serena was 2 years younger, quite clumsy and a bit of a goofball, but her endearing silliness drew me to her. Perhaps the most memorable moment was when Serena got caught climbing the wall into school after being late. I was checking the school grounds when I saw Serena struggling to grip the wall near the school gate. It was locked, but she was determined to climb in. Seeing her straining, unaware I was right behind her, I found it both funny and intriguing. "What are you trying to do, young lady?" I asked, unable to hide the amusement in my voice. Serena jumped, turning to face me, her eyes wide like a deer caught in headlights. Losing her balance, she stumbled and fell straight into me. Ah, she shrieked in panic as we both crashed to the ground. I tried to catch her, but it was too late. We both stood up, Serena flustered, her face flushed, and she immediately apologized. "Sorry, I didn't mean to. I was late, I had no other choice." "Liam, could you let me into class? I swear I'll make it up. Do anything you want," she pleaded, her voice filled with anxiety. I looked at her, still covered in dust, her face red, a mix of pitiful and endearing. I had planned to give her a serious reprimand, but looking at her, how could I maintain a stern face? I stood there for a moment, thinking carefully, then couldn't help but crack a small smile. "All right," I said, trying to sound cool, "but if I catch you doing this again, it won't be so easy." She sighed in relief, thanking me profusely. Thank you so much. I promise I won't do it again." I just nodded and turned away, but my heart felt a little softer towards Serena from that moment. Her silly actions, her clumsiness, but her sincerity, etched themselves into my mind. A few weeks passed since the wall climbing incident, and I had completely forgotten about it. To me, it was just a small moment in the busy days of a student council president, but Serena didn't seem to think the same. That day, at lunchtime, I went downstairs to the cafeteria to buy some food. The cafeteria was bustling and noisy as usual, but I quickly spotted Serena in a corner, sitting with some friends. As usual, she inadvertently caught my attention, not because she was trying to, but because of her innocent clumsiness. Serena had just opened a can of Coca-Cola, and instantly the soda foam sprayed all over her face. I sighed, glancing over to see the scene without even needing to guess. She had definitely shaken the can before opening it. Her friends laughed, but Serena flustered, trying to wipe the soda off her face and clothes. I was going to ignore it, but my feet unconsciously took me closer to her. Without a word, I took a handkerchief out of my pocket and gave it to Serena, my face expressionless. "Use this," I said, my voice calm, without revealing any emotion. Serena looked up at me, her eyes full of surprise and confusion. She hesitantly took the handkerchief, her face full of gratitude. "Thank you, Liam," she mumbled. I stood there for a moment, watching her awkwardly wipe her face and clothes with a look of regret. When Serena was done, I didn't say another word, just turned and walked straight back to my spot. But Serena wouldn't let me go that easily. She quickly stood up, chasing after me, her voice urgent. "Liam, wait. I stopped, turning to look at her, not really wanting to hear anymore. "I owe you another one," Serena said, her eyes wide with seriousness. "What do you want me to do in return?" I furrowed my brow, unsure if she was being serious. "It's nothing," I replied nonchalantly, about to continue walking. But Serena wouldn't give up. She quickly followed, clinging to her promise persistently. "No, I have to do something to thank you. What do you want? Say it, I will definitely do it." I sighed, not wanting to prolong this, but Serena's persistence made me feel uncomfortable. She stood in front of me, her eyes shining, as if she wouldn't leave unless she got an answer. "There really is nothing," I replied, trying to maintain a cool demeanor. She wouldn't budge, her eyes sparkling as if waiting for something. I shook my head, about to walk away, then stopped, thinking for a moment. "All right," I said, a hint of mockery in my tone, "don't shake the soda next time." Serena stood there, confused, then burst into awkward laughter, nodding repeatedly. "I promise, no more shaking, I mean it." I looked at her for a moment, then turned and walked away, leaving Serena still standing there with a light smile on her lips, unaware that she had left a lasting impression on me a long time ago. After that day, everything seemed to change strangely. Wherever I went, on the school grounds, in the hallways, or even on the way home from school, Serena always seemed to appear out of nowhere and wave enthusiastically at me. Not only that, she would shout, her voice clear and cheerful. "Hi, Liam." At first, I thought it was just a passing phase of enthusiasm. But no, every day, from that point on, Serena became an uncontrollable source of energy whenever she saw me. It made me feel awkward, especially when people around us started to notice and giggle. One afternoon, I was leaving my classroom, about to go down the stairs, when I heard Serena's voice from afar. "Liam, over here." I looked around and saw her standing at the end of the hallway, waving her hand wildly as if I were a famous movie star. A few students standing nearby turned to look. Some even snickered. I felt my face flush a little from embarrassment, but I tried to stay composed. I nodded slightly at Serena, hoping she would understand and tone down her enthusiasm. But no. Serena continued to wave and shout with her usual innocence. She didn't even realize she was making me feel awkward in front of the crowd. One afternoon, as I was sitting on a bench outside the school grounds, reviewing my notes for the student council meeting, Serena suddenly appeared in front of me, as she often did. The only difference was this time there was something peculiar in her eyes, making me look up. "Liam," she started, her voice soft but serious, "do you think we should try dating?" I straightened up, raising my eyebrows in surprise. "Dating?" I repeated, unable to hide my confusion. "Are you kidding?" Serena shook her head, her eyes free from any hint of joking. "No, I'm serious. We've known each other for a long time, I think. Why not try it? I'm sure you won't be disappointed." I stared at her for a few seconds, trying to understand what she was thinking. A part of me felt surprised, but another part had a slight sense of doubt. "You think this is serious?" I asked, trying to sound cool. Of course, Serena laughed, confidence radiating from her smile. "We're perfect for each other, don't you think? I guarantee you'll like it." I chuckled lightly, shaking my head. "No, Serena, I don't think so. We're friends, and I don't want to change that." But my rejection didn't seem to discourage her. Serena narrowed her eyes at me, a challenging smile playing on her lips. "Okay, rejecting this time doesn't mean forever. Just wait and see." And as promised, Serena began her plan to win me over. She found every way to make me change my mind, each day bringing a new trick. When I went down to the cafeteria, she would suddenly appear, bringing my favorite food and smiling brightly. Another time, she would accidentally wander into places where I was working, asking me to help her with questions that weren't really important but would catch my attention. There was even a time, during a student council meeting, when Serena purposely sent me a note with the words, "Do you have time for a date today?" When I looked at her, Serena just smiled innocently, as if we were playing some silly game. Day after day, even though I tried to avoid her, Serena persisted. She never gave up, finding every way to get me to notice her sincerity. Even though I constantly maintained a detached attitude, deep down I couldn't deny the warmth she brought. Perhaps it was Serena's stubbornness, but also her endearing nature, that made me start to waver. Finally, one late evening, when the whole school was quiet and I was leaving the meeting room, Serena suddenly appeared. She stood in front of me, her breath slightly quickening, her eyes shining under the dim lights. "Liam, I know what you think," she said, her voice husky and soft, "but I won't give up. I really like you, and I want you to know that. You can reject me again, but I can't stop liking you, so why don't you give us a chance?" This time I didn't smile, didn't frown like I usually did. I stood still, looking at Serena with all the sincerity she was showing. Her words echoed in my mind, and I realized that, perhaps, I had been wrong to reject her from the start. Serena wasn't just a clumsy or stubborn girl. She was someone who always believed in what she pursued, and now, that was me. I sighed. But this time it was a sigh of relief. "All right, Serena," I said, a smile briefly crossing my lips. "We'll try dating." Serena lit up, as if she had just heard the best thing in the world. She didn't say anything, just rushed into my arms, making me laugh and catch her. Even though I didn't say it out loud, I knew in my heart that Serena's persistent sincerity had finally touched my heart. It's been 2 years since I graduated. I quickly adapted to the new life with my degree and skills, starting my career at a leading company in the industry, where I had been interning for months. I was about to become a full-time employee at one of the top companies in the country. Everything seemed to be going in the right direction: a stable job, a promising future. As for Serena, she was still in her final year of university. 2 years passed, we went through a lot together, and every day with her only made my feelings for her stronger. Though I was always a bit cold, sometimes even distant, Serena never let it stop her. She was still the only woman who could melt the shell I had built around myself, still retaining her innocent stubbornness, but also the sincerity she had from the start. We talked about the future, about our plans further down the line. Both of us wanted to go further, beyond just a simple love affair. Serena often mentioned marriage, half-jokingly, whenever she saw me do something thoughtful for her. Then, one evening at our favorite cafe, where we used to sit, she said what I had known for a long time would come. "Liam," Serena began, her eyes shining, "What do you think about us getting married after I graduate?" I looked up from my coffee, not too surprised, but still wanting to let her finish. "Have you thought about it seriously? This isn't a small matter." Serena smiled, her eyes filled with certainty. "I've been thinking about it for a long time. We've been together long enough to know what we want. I'm not that clumsy girl from high school anymore. I know how important this is to both of us." I remained silent, took a sip of my coffee, thinking for a moment before responding. Actually, I had thought about it too, and I felt like we were genuinely ready. Serena and I had matured a lot over the years. Both of us had learned to understand and love each other in the most complete way. "All right," I nodded, looking into her eyes, my voice more serious than ever. "When you graduate, we'll get married. I promise." Serena took a deep breath, as if she had just heard what she'd been waiting for forever. Her smile was brighter than ever, and at that moment I knew I had made the right decision. We were both headed for a future we trusted, a future we would build together. But it's all shattered now, isn't it? When I saw those messages from dating apps on Serena's phone, the world seemed to collapse right in front of me. My heart ached, memories of our love flooding back like a raging storm. The image of the two of us sitting under a tree, laughing about who would get a boyfriend or girlfriend first, echoed in my mind, but now it wasn't a joke anymore. It was a cruel reality. I simply remained silent and retreated, putting her phone back in its place, trying not to let my emotions consume me. That night, I lay next to Serena, feeling my heart getting heavier and heavier. I could hear her steady breathing while I was barely breathing myself. She lay there, completely carefree, while I was facing a devastating reality. The woman I had loved since childhood had betrayed me. You think I would just let it go? Just accept it and move on? No, not a chance. This is just the beginning. The anger, the pain inside me isn't something I can easily bury with silence. The next morning, I didn't do anything. I wanted to see if Serena would notice, if she would sense the growing distance between us. She didn't say anything. She still laughed with me, still kissed my cheek like she always did. But now, every affectionate gesture just made the pain in me worse. I wanted to confront her then and there, but I restrained myself. I knew, to make her really understand what she'd done, I needed a plan. To make her see the price of this betrayal, I wouldn't just let her walk out of my life without feeling the consequences. No, this isn't the end for us. This is just the beginning of something bigger, more painful. I would wait. And Serena would never look at me the same way again. So, I decided to carry out my plan. I created a profile on a dating app, but didn't use my own picture. Instead, I used a picture of Patrick, a close friend I met through gaming. Patrick was the kind of guy Serena always praised: tall, 5'9", with a muscular but refined physique. Especially those blue eyes that she once confessed were a weakness for her. Of course, I asked Patrick beforehand, and he agreed right away without asking any questions. This wasn't just a game. It was a way for me to prove that Serena's betrayal wasn't an accident. She wasn't just making a mistake, she had chosen this path. And now, she would have to face the consequences of her actions. I named Patrick's profile Ethan and crafted an ideal story. A guy who had just moved to the city, looking for a serious relationship, but still wanting to keep things casual at first. All the things I knew Serena would be drawn to. It didn't take long, only a few minutes, and Serena had swiped right. I could feel her amused smile as she saw Ethan's profile. Then, the first message appeared. "Serena, hey Ethan, I think you have beautiful blue eyes. It's been a long time since I've seen anyone with eyes like that. Did you just move here?" I sat silently in front of the screen, my fingers trembling slightly. Reading her message to a stranger with such nonchalance made my heart ache. But I was prepared for this. "Thank you, Serena. I actually did just move here. Everything is new, but I think I'll adapt quickly. What about you? What are you looking for on this app?" I knew what was coming. She would feign innocence, lie like she had done with me. "Serena, oh, nothing serious. Just exploring and making friends, but if I meet someone right, who knows?" Reading that, I felt a surge of anger rising in my chest. That was how she had talked about our relationship, initially casual, not serious, but then it became everything, and now she was using those same words with someone else. I took a deep breath, deciding to continue the play. "I think so too. Sometimes life throws you surprises you can't predict, so would you be interested in getting coffee this weekend? If you want, I know a pretty nice cafe nearby." Let's see how Serena would react when Ethan suggested a meeting. My heart pounded as I stared at the screen, waiting for her reply. "Serena, sounds interesting. I'm pretty busy this weekend, but next week might work. I definitely want to meet Ethan." After exchanging a few messages with Serena through Ethan's account, I decided to log out. I didn't want to reveal anything that could make her suspicious. Putting down my phone, I felt a dull ache spreading through me, even though everything seemed normal on the surface. Just then I heard humming come outside. It was Serena, her voice soft, singing a cheerful tune she loved. That voice, which used to give me a sense of peace, now felt like a painful reminder of her deception. I walked outside and saw Serena standing in the kitchen, preparing dinner. She was wearing a green apron, her hair tied up neatly. Such a familiar sight, to the point of heart-wrenching. Even knowing everything, I was drawn back to the old memories, the simple, warm moments we used to share. I went closer to her, gently slipping my arm around Serena's waist from behind, pulling her close. She jumped slightly but quickly giggled when she realized it was me. I buried my face in the crook of her neck, taking a deep breath of her shampoo scent. That familiar smell, the one I used to be crazy about, now carried a hint of bitterness. "You seem happy today," I asked softly, trying to sound light and natural. "Anything going on?" Serena turned her head to look at me briefly, her eyes shining innocently. "Oh, I just learned a new recipe from a video yesterday. I'm going to try it for you, see if you like it." She said it with enthusiasm, but only I knew the truth. The story she was telling was completely a lie. Serena wasn't happy about any recipe. She was happy because of something else, because of the thrill of interacting with Ethan, whom she didn't know was me, standing right here, holding her in my arms. Despite this, I didn't say anything. I knew what she was hiding, but instead of exposing it right now, I chose to stay silent. Perhaps partly because I wanted to prolong this familiar moment a little longer, to remind myself how much I had loved this woman. "I'm really looking forward to trying your new dish," I replied softly, pushing the pain to the back of my mind, hiding it in the dark corner of my thoughts. Serena smiled, continued cooking, while I stood there, holding her, feeling the world crumbling around me but unable to let go. Serena's tuition, ever since we started dating, was all taken care of by me. I never wanted Serena to be disadvantaged, and most of all, I wanted her to have the best conditions to focus on her studies without worrying about finances. Serena had tried to object, saying she would find a way to manage, but I was insistent. For me, helping her achieve her dreams and have a secure future was a given. Just like the rent for the apartment we were living in together, all expenses were covered by me. Serena had been apprehensive, feeling too dependent on me, but I always told her, "This isn't just helping, it's because I want you to have the best conditions. I don't worry too much, just study hard and live happily, that's enough." Every month, I provided the full rent, living expenses, and even Serena's tuition. She knew it. And though she often felt guilty, she couldn't deny that this helped her focus all her energy on her studies without additional pressure from the outside. I was brought back to the present when we were both sitting down to eat dinner. In front of me, Serena was silently eating, but her eyes kept glancing at her phone, unable to stay away from it for more than a few seconds. Every time the screen lit up, I could see her unconsciously smile slightly, as if waiting for something important. I knew what was going on, but I still wanted to hear it from her. "Who are you waiting for a message from?" I asked, trying to sound natural, as if the question was just normal curiosity. Serena jumped, as if caught red-handed. Her eyes widened for a few seconds, then she quickly waved her hand, turning off her phone and putting it down on the table. "Oh no, nothing." She laughed, but her smile was a bit forced. "I was just looking at some nice yearbook photos. It's almost the end of my university year." The explanation sounded plausible, but I knew it wasn't true. I could see it in Serena's flustered eyes and the way she quickly turned off her phone. That wasn't how someone who was just browsing yearbook photos would act. She was hiding something, and I knew exactly what it was. I remained silent for a moment, watching Serena continue eating, as if nothing had happened. A bitter feeling welled up in my chest as I faced her deception once again, but instead of confronting her immediately, I just nodded and continued eating. Sometimes silence spoke more than any question. I knew clearly, this was just another act that Serena was putting on, and sooner or later the truth would be exposed. But right now I chose to wait. Wait until Serena couldn't hide it anymore. After dinner, I took charge of washing the dishes as usual, while Serena wiped the table. Neither of us said anything. The kitchen, usually cozy, was now enveloped in a heavy silence, only the sound of running water and the faint sound of the cloth wiping the table. I could clearly feel the distance between us, but I didn't do anything to fill it. When she was done wiping, Serena paused for a moment, then turned to me, her voice soft but lacking the usual cheerfulness. "I'm going to my room first." I just nodded, not turning to look at her. Serena left, her light footsteps echoed down the hallway before her room door closed. I sighed, feeling my chest weigh down. All I could do was continue my task, trying to focus all my thoughts on the plates and bowls to hide the dull ache in my heart. When I was done, I dried my hands and walked back to my room. The room was eerily quiet, only the light from the phone screen waiting for me. I unlocked it and immediately logged into the Ethan account. It wasn't surprising that there were a few new messages from Serena. Just a glance, and I could predict the content. "Serena, what are you doing, Ethan?" I furrowed my brow, a bitter feeling spreading as I looked at her words. Sent to a stranger. She was in this house, under the same roof that I paid for, and yet she was spending her time flirting with someone who didn't exist. I typed a reply, feeling a heavy weight in my chest. "Just finished washing the dishes." A few seconds later, another message appeared, full of implications. Serena, oh, I can wash dishes too. If you need help, I can wash them for you. Serena's soft, flirty words made me feel miserable. She was here, under the same roof, and instead of wanting to share simple moments with me like washing dishes, she was sending those sweet words to someone she thought was a stranger, Ethan. The contradiction inside me grew stronger, but I still decided to continue the game. I knew everything needed to be pushed further for Serena to be unable to hide the truth. Really? Maybe when we meet, I'll ask you to help me wash dishes, remember that. I added a smiling emoji, as if I was flirting back, but in reality, there was only bitterness in my heart. This play continued, and each message exchanged only made me more disillusioned. Serena still didn't realize that Ethan, whom she was trying to attract, was the same man she had promised a future with, had shared all the burdens of life with. I was sitting on the bed, my eyes glued to the phone screen, waiting for the next message from Serena, when a new notification appeared. I pressed it to see, and the photo that appeared froze me. It was Serena, standing in front of the mirror in her room, looking seductive. She was wearing a nightgown I had never seen before apparently. She had bought it in secret without telling me. The flimsy gown, hugging her body, along with the soft lighting in the room, created a stimulating scene. Her face had a mischievous glint, as if she knew the impact she was creating. Right below the photo, her flirty message appeared, making everything even worse. Serena, I can help you wash other things too if you want. I felt a surge of rage boiling inside me. How could she send that picture to Ethan, someone she had never met? And the more painful thing was that I was here, in this house, the one she said she would marry. But now, Serena was using those words to a guy she thought was a stranger. A bitter taste rose in my throat, but I tried to suppress my anger, staying calm. I knew I couldn't explode right now. Everything needed to reach its end, but not yet. I still had one part of the plan to execute. I typed a few words, feeling my hands trembling from the pent-up anger. I'll wait. We'll meet then. I hit send. Then, without waiting for a response, I turned off the phone immediately. I couldn't look anymore. My mind was in chaos, a mix of rage and deep disappointment. Serena, the woman I thought would be by my side for life, had gone this far now. I lay down on the bed, but I couldn't sleep. Her images, her words kept swirling in my head. A part of me wanted to confront Serena right away, ask her to explain everything, but I knew I couldn't. This storm wasn't ready to burst. I closed my eyes, trying to bury the pain and anger deep inside, waiting for the day when the truth could no longer be hidden. To make Serena believe even more in this guy online, I had a plan. The coffee date was set. I knew Serena would come to meet Ethan, and this time I needed Patrick's help. He was the only one I could trust in this situation. Before everything started, I had carefully instructed Patrick. If Serena tried to seduce him or went too far, he should act defensive, not letting things go too far. I needed him to keep everything under control. To show my appreciation, I gave Patrick a gift. He had always wanted the newest game skin we used to play together. Patrick smiled and accepted the gift, patted me on the shoulder, and assured me he would do his best to help me expose everything. So Patrick went into the cafe as Ethan found a seat near the window where he could easily observe and waited for Serena. Meanwhile, I sat in a secluded corner, watching from afar, phone in hand, eyes fixed on the entrance. I texted Patrick, encouraging him and reminding him of some instructions. Patrick replied with a short, confident message. He was ready for his role, and I was prepared for anything that might happen. Now it was just a matter of waiting. I took a deep breath, my heart filled with a mix of anticipation and pain. This date could change everything. Not long after, Serena appeared. She walked into the cafe with an air of enchantment. The outfit she chose for today was incredibly cute, cleverly highlighting her femininity and charm. Serena hesitantly looked around, and when she saw Ethan, or rather Patrick, she smiled shyly and walked over, looking like a girl waiting for a miracle. The two of them sat down, starting to talk to each other. Serena seemed demure and shy, but she couldn't hide her excitement when facing her dream man. Every word she said was filled with subtlety and implicit seduction. But Patrick, despite trying to appear relaxed, couldn't help but feel uncomfortable in this situation. Occasionally, Serena would gently reach out, lightly touching Patrick's hand, making him shiver. Serena's eyes were full of dreaminess, as if she had already painted a distant future in her mind, with images of their house and their child together. Patrick glanced towards me, where I was sitting in the corner of the cafe, hidden behind a partition. I could clearly see Patrick's face. I saw him swallow, trying to maintain his role while Serena's eyes seemed lost in another world. "Do you like kids?" Serena asked, her voice sweet and gentle to the point of being scary. "I've always thought about having a small family, and you would definitely be a wonderful father." Patrick swallowed again, trying to remain calm as he heard the question. He forced a smile, then quickly glanced towards me, as if begging for help. "Oh, I like kids too," Patrick replied, his voice slightly shaky but still trying to stay calm. "But it depends. I want everything to come at the right time." Serena smiled, her eyes shining as if she had found the perfect man for her future. "Right? Right," she said, her hand lightly touching Patrick's again. "I think so too. But you're the first person I've really felt comfortable with. I have a feeling. We were meant to be." Every word she said was like a knife stabbing straight into my heart. From my secluded corner, I watched it all, feeling bitter to the core. Serena, the woman I had devoted my entire youth to loving, was now flirting with someone else, and even thinking about starting a family with him. I tried to suppress my emotions, but the pain and anger were slowly rising inside. Everything unfolded before me like a nightmare I couldn't escape. Each touch of Serena's hand on Patrick, each shy smile of hers, only shattered me more inside. But I still sat there, waiting for the final moment, when the truth could no longer be hidden. Unable to bear it any longer, I grabbed my phone and texted Patrick, trying to keep myself from exploding with all the emotions raging inside. "Patrick, I'm leaving now. You stay there for 5 more minutes, then find an excuse to leave. Don't let her suspect anything." Patrick received the message and immediately glanced at me from afar, his eyes flashing with concern, but he nodded slightly to signal that he understood. Serena, still oblivious to anything, continued to chat with Patrick, her eyes sparkling with hope for a perfect future with Ethan. I stood up, walked out of the cafe, my heart heavy and filled with bitterness. Every step I took was like a deeper cut, but I knew this wasn't the end. There had to be an end to this game, but not today. Behind me, Patrick tried to stay calm, sitting for a few more minutes before he found a way to leave the cafe, as planned. I wandered around the corner of the street, my steps aimless, as if I had no destination. The heaviness in my heart prevented me from going home, where Serena would return after meeting Ethan. My steps were slow, as if the world around me was just a blurry mist. I walked without knowing where I was going, letting the flow of my thoughts drag me through familiar streets. Finally, I stopped at a small park where there were rows of stone benches under the shade of green trees. I sat down on an empty bench, sinking into it, as if the weight of truth had just fallen onto my shoulders. My eyes unintentionally drifted towards the loving couple strolling around the park. They held hands, laughed, exchanged gentle and intimate glances. Those seemingly simple moments, to me right now, were incredibly distant. I sat there, feeling self-pity and loneliness take over my soul. Everything suddenly felt suffocating when beautiful memories between me and Serena came back uninvited. I recalled the early days, when we were just close friends, and gradually realized the special feelings we had for each other. I remembered the time she innocently held my hand in the twilight, the time she made me laugh with her endearing clumsiness. Those memories were once comforting, once a driving force for me to continue, but now they were just painful fragments. I sat there, facing myself, and the suffocating feeling gradually transformed into a decision I couldn't avoid any longer. It was time to face the truth, to face Serena, and to face what she had done. I couldn't keep deceiving myself. I couldn't keep waiting and witnessing any more betrayal. I took a deep breath, my eyes fixed on the gray sky, as if reflecting my current mood. "I have to do this," I whispered to myself, my heart made up. What Serena had done was irredeemable, and now confrontation was inevitable. I stood up from the stone bench, my legs now with a clear purpose. It was time to end this game, and there was only one way to do it: face the truth, no matter how painful it was. I returned home, walked through the door, and saw Serena lying on the sofa, her eyes glued to the TV screen. She looked relaxed, completely carefree. After meeting Ethan, I tried to suppress my emotions, walked towards her, bent down, and placed a light kiss on her cheek. "I'm back," I said simply, my voice calm. Serena didn't seem suspicious, just turned to smile softly, as if everything was still normal. "Are you all right? You look a little tired," she asked, her eyes still fixed on the TV screen. "It's nothing, I just need to rest a little," I replied, then walked straight to my room. Serena didn't say anything more, probably thinking I was just stressed after a long day. Entering my room, I closed the door and sat down on the edge of the bed, my heart churning with decisions that were reaching their final stage. I picked up my phone and texted Patrick. "Take a shirtless picture for me. You have to show off those muscles. Send it to me right away. I'll give you another skin." Patrick replied quickly, understanding that I was pushing things to the limit. After a few minutes, the picture appeared on the screen. Patrick standing in front of the mirror, his physique strong and firm, exactly the kind of body Serena often praised. He texted back right after that. "All right, but you owe me 2 skins. Consider it compensation." I chuckled wryly at the message, sent a promise, and quickly downloaded the photo. Next, I booked a hotel room online, preparing everything for the final step in the plan. Opening the Ethan account, I sent Patrick's photo to Serena, along with a message. "If you're free tonight, we'll meet." I sent the address and made a reservation. "You get there first." Just a few minutes later, Serena's message appeared. She read the message, and I could see the eagerness in her reply. "Wow, you're so thoughtful. I'll be there as soon as I can." I took a deep breath, feeling as if everything was crumbling before my eyes, but I also knew this was the last chance to see if Serena had the courage to back down. Part of me still loved her, still wanted to believe she would stop before going too far. But then I heard footsteps outside my room. Serena knocked lightly, then slowly pushed the door open, looking inside. "Honey, I have to go out for a bit. If you're hungry, there's food in the fridge." Her words felt like a knife piercing my heart. She wasn't just betraying me, but she was about to run off with Ethan, someone who didn't exist. I could only nod, give a weak smile, trying to hide the pain. "Yeah, I'll manage," I said, my voice calm, but inside I was shattering. Serena smiled and left, her footsteps light as if nothing had happened. The door to my room closed, and I sat alone in the darkness, feeling empty and bitter. I had made my decision. This was the final line. My heart wasn't just aching anymore, it was numb, hollow to the core. Serena had left, and I was certain she was no longer in the apartment. I sat there for a while, silent in the emptiness, before making my final decision. No more words were needed, no more confrontation or explanation. This was the ending. I stood up, walked out of the room, and went straight to Serena's closet. Without hesitation, I started quickly packing up all her clothes and personal belongings. One by one, from dresses, shirts, shoes to makeup, everything was stuffed into a large bag. My hands worked mechanically, as if all my emotions had been frozen. All the memories, all the moments we had shared were now only in these inanimate objects. When I had gathered all of Serena's things, I dragged them outside the door, opened the apartment door, and placed everything on the porch. The bags sat neatly, silently in the dim space of the building. Without saying anything more, I turned back inside, closing the door decisively. Instantly, I started changing things. I removed the door lock, changed the latch, and even the electronic password for the main entrance. Each step was part of a liberation, a way to completely erase Serena's presence in this space, in my life. This was the most subtle revenge I could carry out, not through violence or anger, but by coldly and decisively removing her from my life. I stood before the newly locked door, feeling as if I had finally accomplished something necessary. Serena would return, and then she would realize everything. Everything was over, no explanation, no more concession. I went back to the bedroom, my heart light but empty. As I lay back on the comfortable bed, a sense of tiredness started to overwhelm me. I had spent many sleepless nights, my eyes dark from thoughts, tormenting myself over Serena and what she had done. But tonight, perhaps I would sleep better. Everything was over. There was nothing more to worry about or care about. I closed my eyes, trying to let my mind drift into sleep, but right then, the phone buzzed and a flurry of messages started popping up continuously. A part of me already knew who it was, but I still picked up the phone and glanced at the screen. Just as I expected, it was Serena. Her messages came in rapid succession, filled with worry and impatience. "Are you here yet? I've been waiting for so long and haven't seen you. Are you coming soon? I can't wait any longer. Ethan, where are you? I'm still here." She was waiting for Ethan, but she didn't know that the person she was waiting for would never show up. She had pushed things too far, and now she had to face the truth. I looked at her messages, my heart feeling nothing, only emptiness and indifference. I didn't reply. I didn't need to say anything more. Serena was no longer valuable in my eyes, no longer deserving of my time or attention. Everything she had done, every betrayal, every lie, was now the past. She no longer occupied any space in my life. I turned off my phone, tossed it aside, and went back to bed. Finally, I could close my eyes without worrying or feeling pain. Serena, and everything we had, was now part of the past. And tonight, I would sleep better than ever, knowing I had freed myself from it all. The sound of pounding on the door echoed loudly in the middle of the night, waking me from a light sleep. I yawned, my eyes still groggy, then sat up and stumbled out of bed. Without looking at the clock, I knew it was very late, probably 2 or 3 in the morning. The pounding on the door continued relentlessly, along with the loud calling from outside. I walked to the door, leaned over to look through the peephole. Just as I suspected, Serena was standing outside the hallway. She was wearing the same clothes from before, her eyes bloodshot, and her face filled with anger and panic. Serena kept knocking on the door and shouting, demanding I open it for her. "Liam, what are you doing? Why did you change the password and take all my stuff out? Open the door now." I couldn't help but notice that the pile of clothes and bags I had left outside for Serena earlier had been rummaged through. It seemed someone had been looking through them. This made me feel even more annoyed, but not because of Serena, but because of the pathetic spectacle she was creating in the middle of the night. I sighed, looking at Serena through the peephole for a few more seconds. She was still pounding on the door, shouting nonstop, her tone both angry and urgent, but I knew nothing she said or did at this moment could change my decision. Not wanting to waste any more time or words, I ignored everything and went back to the bedroom, closing the door. Serena's scream still echoed, but I didn't care. Let her scream until she was tired or wait until the neighbors came out to tell her to stop. As for me, I had nothing more to say to her. Lying back in bed, I tried to close my eyes, listening to the knocking getting quieter. Now, Serena could realize that everything was over, but it was no longer my problem. When she had no voice, no control in this house anymore, I was left with only one thing in my heart: peace, albeit belated. Early in the morning, I woke up after a good night's sleep, perhaps the first time I had slept well in many sleepless nights. My body felt so comfortable. I stretched my body with a sense of contentment, as if I had lifted the burdens that had been on my shoulders for so long. Getting out of bed, I went to the bathroom, took care of my hygiene, and prepared myself for the day ahead. Today, I felt different perhaps because I knew I had truly overcome the toughest part. When I opened the door, I was about to leave the house to go to work as usual, but the sight before me made me stop. Serena, still in her clothes from yesterday, was sitting huddled outside the door, hugging her belongings close to her and leaning against the wall. She was asleep right on the porch, in the coldness of the night. Hearing my footsteps, Serena woke up with a start, her eyes wide open and her face showing clear joy, as if she had just seen the light after a long, dark night. Liam, she quickly got up, her voice full of hope. Why are you doing this? I've been sleeping out here all night. It's cold. You don't think today is April Fool's Day, do you? I don't joke like this. I'm really mad at you. Serena spoke without realizing that things had gone too far to turn back. She still had hope. She still thought this was just a misunderstanding or a prank I was playing on her. I stood there, looking at her coldly and distantly. There was no more tenderness or pity in me. My eyes now only saw detachment and anger. Serena, still standing there, her face confused, expecting an explanation or an apology from me. I scoffed, a bitter smile mixed with sarcasm. What about the baby? Have you thought of a name for your child with Ethan yet? My words were like a knife stabbing straight into Serena, causing her to flinch back, her eyes wide, speechless. Shock was evident on her face, the hopeful smile gradually fading, replaced by panic and fear. Serena stuttered, How did you know? I looked at her, my eyes now filled with indifference. You've gone too far, Serena. Everything you've done, you thought I'd never find out. Serena stood there, as if all explanations and apologies had become meaningless. I had seen through it all. Serena tried to force a smile, her voice trembling as she said, This kind of joke isn't funny, you know. Don't do this anymore. I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I pulled out my phone and opened the messages between Ethan and Serena, then held the screen towards her. Serena's eyes shifted from confusion to panic as she saw the string of messages. She recognized it instantly. This whole game was no longer a secret. The truth was fully exposed. Serena froze for a few seconds, then tried to regain her composure. She swallowed, her eyes darting around as if she was searching for an explanation. You didn't trust me, she said, her voice suddenly switching from surprise to defensiveness. You created a fake account just to test me. I knew it was you, Liam. I just played along to see how you'd react. I never thought it would go this far. I chuckled dryly, sarcasm and disgust filling my eyes. You think I'm an idiot? You really think I'd believe that reason? Just played along. Is that the best excuse you can come up with? Serena remained silent, her eyes shifting, as if trying to find a glimmer of hope from me. But she only met coldness and unforgivingness. She was completely exposed. From a person playing with my emotions, she was now the victim of her own game. I looked straight into Serena's eyes, my voice like ice. There's nothing more to say between us, Serena. Serena panicked, her eyes instantly welling up as she walked towards me, trying to grab my hand. Liam, please. Listen to me, it's not like you think. I didn't mean to hurt you. It's true. I was wrong, but we can fix everything. Don't leave me like this, please. I pulled my hand away, my eyes empty. Serena, don't make things worse. You've had too many chances, but there's nothing left between us. Serena burst into tears, but I knew in my heart that this had been over for a long time. I turned away, leaving her pleas behind, not looking back once. Throughout the entire workday, my mind couldn't stop thinking about Serena's ridiculous excuses this morning. Those fumbling words, the weak defense about knowing it was me only made me feel cynical. Each time I thought about it, I'd let out a bitter chuckle. How could someone I had loved, considered innocent and genuine, stoop to such levels of deceit? Even though everything was laid bare, she still tried to twist the truth. My workday ended, I felt tired, but at least a day spent working had helped me to somewhat alleviate the gloom. However, when I stepped back into the apartment, the discomfort returned as I saw Serena standing outside, right in front of the door. She saw me, her eyes tear-stained, her lips trembling. Liam, please, Serena said through her sobs. I have nowhere else to go. I was wrong. Can you forgive me? I really don't know what to do anymore. I stood there, watching her cry, my heart devoid of any emotion. Serena was once someone I trusted and loved, but now, all that remained was disappointment. I had no feelings left for her tears. "Serena, it's over. I said it this morning. There's nothing left between us." Without receiving forgiveness, Serena's face shifted from sorrow to anger. Suddenly, she lunged towards me, trying to hit me, something I hadn't anticipated at all. "You're so cruel. How can you treat me like this?" she yelled, her eyes bloodshot. The outburst made Serena lose control, completely different from the innocent, vulnerable image I had known. She tried to punch me in the chest, but her actions were ridiculous, like the punches of a madman. In that moment, I realized Serena was no longer the woman I had loved. She had become toxic, harmful, and dangerous. I easily controlled Serena, holding her hands before she could cause any more trouble. Even though she struggled, I held on tight, looking straight at her calmly. With my other hand, I calmly pulled out my phone, pressed the number to call the police. "Hello, I want to report someone causing a disturbance in front of my apartment. She's acting out of control and showing signs of violence." Serena was stunned when she heard me talking to the police. She yelled in a panic, trying to struggle, but I held her tight, unwavering. Everything had gone too far, and now I had no choice but to let the law intervene. Serena needed to face the consequences of her actions. Not long after the police arrived in front of the apartment, 2 officers walked up, the red and blue lights of the police car reflected on the wall, creating a tense and heavy atmosphere. I released Serena's hands as they approached, stood straight with a composed demeanor, but my eyes were filled with exhaustion. "She's been stalking me for a long time," I said, my voice cold and decisive. "She wouldn't leave, constantly putting mental pressure on me, and now she's lost control. I have no other choice but to call the police." Serena immediately yelled, her eyes bloodshot, panicked, and full of anger. "No, it's not like that. We're still in love." "Liam, say it. We're in love, right?" She tried to touch me, but I stepped back, maintaining a clear distance. The police walked over, holding Serena's hands to ensure she didn't continue to lose control. They looked at her, then back at me. An officer, after listening to my statement, turned to me with a serious expression. "Are you sure this isn't just a misunderstanding?" I took a deep breath, looked straight into the officer's eyes, trying not to show too much emotion, but the tiredness in my voice was evident. "I've told her clearly many times that everything is over, but she wouldn't listen. She's been following me, causing disturbances, and even lost control, as you can see. I have no other options." Serena, pressured by the presence of the police and the unfolding situation, continued to scream. "It's not like that. He's lying. We're in love. He doesn't trust me, so he tested me. It's his fault." She tried to struggle, tears rolling down her cheeks. But now, no one was listening anymore. The police looked at me, then at Serena, assessing the contrast between my tired and composed demeanor and her aggression and loss of control. One of them nodded, as if he understood the situation. "Ma'am, you need to calm down," one officer said, holding Serena's arms. "We'll take you to sort this out." Serena couldn't believe what was happening. She yelled and continued to scream, but the police had made their decision. They led her away, despite her attempts to struggle, cry, and plead. She kept looking back, trying to catch my eye, hoping to get some sympathy, but I just stood there, looking at her with cold and hard eyes. The door of the police car closed, and Serena was taken away. I stood silently, watching the flashing lights gradually fade into the distance, my heart feeling nothing but emptiness and relief. Finally, everything was over. Sometime after the incident with Serena, my life gradually returned to normal. Each day that passed, I felt lighter, free from the mental burden that the toxic relationship with Serena had created. I continued working hard, focusing on my career and myself, step by step rebuilding my life without the obsessions and troubles. Serena, as I heard, had to go to therapy after the incident. The court issued a restraining order prohibiting her from approaching me or any area near my apartment and workplace. She was under close surveillance, ensuring that there was no contact between us anymore. Although this might be harsh, I knew it was necessary not just for my safety but also for Serena herself. She needed treatment and to face the psychological problems that caused her to lose control. I haven't heard anything about Serena since then, and I didn't want to know. My life has turned a new page, and now I'm focused on taking care of myself, finding joy and peace in everyday life. No more screaming in the night, no more lies or confusion. Finally, I realized that sometimes love also needs to know how to let go. Only when I escaped a toxic relationship could I truly begin to live again, and that was what I needed most right now. The door to the past has closed, and I, after all, have found the peace I had always craved.